Okay, this is Richard Collins from the Physique Code. Today, I wanted to sit down and have a chat to Damon Hayhow from Recomp. We want to go through a few really, really important things that are going through the industry right now, stuff that we're coming across a fair bit of, and Damon is the best of the best in this area. So today, we're going to get him to sit down and explain a few things. So welcome, Damon, to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Mr. Collins. It's a pleasure to be here.
So explain what Recomp is. So just for people that may not know you, just explain to everybody what Recomp is, what you do, and what you are about.
Sure. Well, Recomp is the peak body for the body recomposition industry. So the same way that ASCA is the peak body for strength and conditioning coaches, and Fitness Australia or Physical Activity Australia are the peak bodies for the fitness industry, Recomp is the peak body for personal trainers who specialize in bodybuilding or body recomposition. So basically, any personal trainer who preps athletes for bodybuilding competition or just trains people with heavy weights to build more lean, muscular physiques. For the insurance that actually covers that, including nutrition, you basically have to register with Recomp because the insurance and scope of practice of Fitness Australia does not cover any kind of bodybuilding or heavy weight training. And the insurance with ASCA for strength coaches only covers working with athletes. It doesn't cover you at all if you're working with the general public. So that's what Recomp's all about. It's the only way for personal trainers to be able to coach people with heavy weights and diet them for bodybuilding competition or just to look good at the beach.
Okay, so we'll take that back a couple steps here. So the Fitness Australia will not insure. So for example, if a trainer teaches a new client a deadlift or a squat or something along the lines of that, if there's an injury and the client ends up suing or whatever's going to happen there, Fitness Australia will not cover that at all.
Well, first of all, the insurer is separate from the peak body. So we aren't an insurance company, neither is Fitness Australia. But what the peak body does is defines the scope of practice, basically what the people who are practicing that profession are allowed to do. And fitness means, well, fitness is a remedy to being unfit. So the fitness industry exists because the majority of Australians, a good 60%, are overweight and sedentary, meaning they do no physical activity whatsoever. So Fitness Australia is to personal trainers with them are supposed to help sedentary people get off their bums and do something, anything. Now, if you want to teach them a deadlift, you can, the same way that you can teach them how to punch focus mitts badly, or you can run them around the park like a dog, or you can throw balls to them like a dog, or you can do a whole bunch of different things for them. Any physical activity is fitness. What you're not allowed to do is start pushing the boundaries of performance with any of those activities, because fitness literally means not being sick or injured. And if you're not sedentary, then you've done everything that a member of the public is supposed to do. So yes, you can do a deadlift, but you can't do a 140 kilo deadlift or a 240 kilo or a 340 kilo deadlift. Well, you can't train a person to do that because that's now moving outside of fitness and into sports performance. So where this gets really, really dicey is everyone wants to know, well, where's the demarcation point? Is a 60 kilo deadlift okay, or is a 200 kilo deadlift too much? Or when's the line where all of a sudden I'm not allowed to do it? And my answer to that is the line is wherever the lawyer can argue, the insurer's lawyer can argue it is. Meaning the insurance company doesn't want to pay when you get sued. So if the insurance company's lawyer is better than yours, then the bar's going to get really, really low. It's going to be like, well, an 80 kilo deadlift was just too much to be giving that person. There's no real line, but a line does exist.
Okay.
I'm sorry I can't be more clear than that, because it is.
Yeah, well, it sounds
gray.
like it's a massive gray area.
It is.
So
But
So when you,
the basic rule of thumb is the definition of fitness is not being sick or injured. Look it up in the dictionary. It's physical health. Health is not being sick or injured. From a clinical standards point of view, the entire purpose of the fitness industry is to, one, make people not sedentary. So literally any physical activity whatsoever is considered excellent. And in terms of body composition, you need a BMI under 25. And for fitness, men's body fat is between 14 and 17%, and women is between 21 and 24%. So if you want to reduce body fat under 14% for a man or under 21% for a female, you're no longer talking fitness. You're suddenly getting into a completely different area. And if you want a BMI higher than 25, which for a 175 centimeter person is 72 kilos. So if you're a guy and you want to be bigger than 72 kilos at average 5'9" height, and you want to be leaner than 14% body fat, you can't go to a personal fitness trainer for that. And no personal fitness trainer is allowed to train anyone for a higher BMI than 25 or a lower body fat than 14. These are the standards. I didn't make them. They're not. It's, you know, I keep getting attacked for bringing this up, but it's like, I didn't publish this. It's all online.
That's interesting as well, because I find, you know, nowadays it's almost the in thing to do to talk about how poor the courses are for certificate 3 and 4. But just basically by what you're saying, I mean, the course teaches exactly what it should teach. It's just people are thinking that what the course they're taking is actually has nothing to do with what they plan to teach.
100%.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
so trainers.
If you realize that fitness is helping people not sit on their bum, and to achieve, you know, a very mediocre, bad physique, you know, by bodybuilding standards or by any kind of, you know, if you look at Men's Fitness magazine or Women's Fitness magazine, nobody in any of the pictures in those magazines represents fitness. Those are all athletes. And athletes, they're literally considered a different species by the lawyers and the bureaucrats and the way the system works.
Okay, so is that where you think the confusion would come through between, you know, trainers coming through and doing the Cert 3-4 course and then coming along and trying to prep bodybuilding clients, or even just the general public not competing but wanting to look better and prescribing them nutrition plans and
and the you know, the fitness industry has a lot to answer for itself, because, you know, they hold the Fitness Expo every year, and the poster for the Fitness Expo has got a bunch of bodybuilders and powerlifters and strongmen and other athletes on there. And the Fitness Australia scope of practice specifically states that all sports coaching is excluded from the scope of practice, and any nutritional advice outside of the government's healthy eating guidelines is excluded as well. So to have athletes at the Fitness Expo is just a complete misrepresentation of what the thing is about. And no personal trainer is allowed to help an athlete. Your insurance doesn't cover you. You're out of your scope of practice. It doesn't mean you're not competent and you can't do a good job. What it means is that, you know, you're it's like an absolutely exceptional dentist who's registered with the accounting CPA board, and they've got accounting insurance. It's like, you're screwed when you get sued, buddy. It's not saying that you're bad, and it's not saying that accounting insurance isn't going to cover you for accounting, but you can't put drills in people's mouths on accounting insurance. Same thing with training athletes with fitness insurance. It's madness.
So it's becoming a lot more popular now, obviously, bodybuilding, with, I'd say, probably the rise in a lot of the divisions coming through, a lot of the fitness, a lot more, you know, you go to the comps nowadays and you see bikini divisions and fitness divisions where there's, you know, up to 60 to 80 people involved in it. A lot of them have coaches and stuff like that. And I mean,
I don't know about over there in WA, but man, you know, the All Women's Classic here in Melbourne will get 500 competitors.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just absolutely madness. If you have a vagina, you compete in this show. That's just how it works. And there's a category for you. And I don't think you even need a vagina anymore. I'm pretty sure there's categories if you don't.
So this brings me to my next point, because we're something that you hear a lot about, but I think our business is seeing a lot more of in the recent times, and this is exactly what got me to reach out to you, is clients coming to us that have been either starved on 1,200 calories and given mass amounts of cardio to the point where it's taking them, yeah, I can see your face there. Yeah, it's taking them months and months and months to recover, and some of them to a point, or some of these bikini and fitness girls are using performance enhancing drugs to get to this point. So it's becoming, we found it's becoming a really, really big problem. What would you say would be to combat it? I'm lost. What do we do?
Yeah, look, it's one of the unintended consequences of this glorification of fitness as being something that it absolutely isn't. So cardio, the meaning of the word cardio, it's cardiovascular. It means of the heart and circulatory system. Look it up in the dictionary. It's not a secret. That's what it is. It doesn't say making athletes, shredded. It's about the heart and circulatory system. It's relevant because most people in Australia will die of failure of their heart and circulatory system. And the reason it'll fail is because they don't get off their bums ever. They just shovel crap in their mouth and they sit around. So cardio is a remedy to that. It's literally the lowest form of exercise that you can give to a sedentary person. Stand up, go for a walk.
And that'll follow in that's in the scope of practice for Fitness
and that's in the
Australia.
scope of practice for Fitness Australia. Exactly right. But that is what cardio is for. It's an absolutely admirable, accurate, appropriate prescription for the sick people to whom it's aimed. That does not mean that you should just abuse the bejesus out of that methodology and somehow wind up with an athlete, just as you wouldn't abuse any other medical intervention and hope that you would wind up creating an athlete. It's just absolutely mental. So reducing the calories of a person who stuffs their face full of garbage 24/7 and then getting them to do some exercise is the logical solution to that problem. But when you have a person who is perfectly fit and healthy by the clinical standards, and they then want to turn into more of a muscular athlete, you go, well, you don't go and prescribe sickness remedies and higher doses to them. You don't just keep pulling more and more food out of them and make them do more and more and more and more. If you want to create an athlete, you go, well, what kind of athlete am I trying to create? And you train them for it. If you want to create a swimmer, then you get them swimming. If you want to create a sprinter, you get them sprinting. If you want to create a long-distance runner, you get them running long distances. It's really simple. You go, if you want to create a bodybuilder, you get them lifting weight and you get them eating food, because that's what the sport is. But the fitness industry they don't see it that way. They think that bodybuilding is an extension of fitness, and it's not. It's a sport. It's going in the other direction.
Okay.
So the answer to the question is, if trainers understood this, and if the public understood this, if people realized that getting ready for a bodybuilding competition was athlete development, which it is, then hopefully and maybe they would stop prescribing medical interventions meant for sick, sedentary, obese people in the hope of creating a bodybuilder. I mean, it's just insane. It's so dumb, it's not funny.
So if you were to speak to somebody that's in good shape, looking at wanting to start competing, what advice would you give to them? Because obviously there's a lot of it coming out now, doing an hour of fasted cardio in the morning with minimal calories, and then another weight training session. So before somebody can get to them and say that, what advice would you give to somebody looking to step on stage?
What the whole Recomp method is about, and this is the only thing we teach. We're not teaching about how to train or how to diet or anything else like that, but we lay down some foundations upon which anything else can then be applied. And the simple answer to everything is measure it.
Yeah.
And it's literally a case of going, well, okay, let's measure your body composition now. We'll jump you on the scales to weigh you. We'll do a body fat test on you. We work out how much fat and muscle you've got. And then we need to go, how lean and how big do you need to be to stand on stage? And that becomes our goal. Once you have that goal, you go, okay, what do we need to do with the weight? We need to drop the weight. We need to keep the weight. We need to increase the weight. We need to do whatever we need to do with the weight. and what do we need to do with the body fat, excuse me, and more importantly, the lean mass. So when you actually write these numbers down, if you've got a guy who's 90 kilos at 10% body fat and he wants to stand on stage at 5% body fat, another way of looking at the problem is to say 10% body fat is 90% lean mass. 5% body fat's 95% lean mass. How do we get a person from 90% lean mass, which basically is muscle, up to 95% lean mass? And as soon as you ask that question, it's the same question, but you just look at it the other way around. You suddenly go, well, walking on a treadmill when I'm starving is probably not the best way to go from 90% muscle to 95% muscle.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. We need to come up with a strategy to do that. And then it's just a case of prescribe an amount of food to eat each day, prescribe a weight training program, and then every week measure what it did. And there's the answer to the question. Yeah.
Okay. That's a really good way of putting it, I think, because a lot of people, and I'm not just going to say this for competition preparation, but you get a lot of people that come in.
Same process, no matter where you're
They want to change their body composition, but they come in and they say, they may only have 25 to 30 kilos of lean mass on their body, say a female, and they want to look better, but they end up going, oh, I've got 9% or sorry, I say 20% body fat, and you say, oh no, I want to get it to 15, and then the mindset there goes to, all right, how do I get body fat percentage down? And then it starts thinking less food, less calories. Whereas if you look at it off that other number, then all of a sudden it turns into, well, to gain muscle I need to eat more and I need to lift heavier weights. So yeah, that's same question, just different perspective.
It's just a different perspective, but the main thing is that if you're wanting to change your body composition, just measure your damn body composition. And you get so many of these coaches out there who absolutely spit venom at anybody who measures what they're doing, and you're like, how can it hurt? It's not very hard. It doesn't take you any time to do it. And if you're right about everything that you're doing, no matter how crazy anybody else says it is, if you can show them the measured numbers and just go, look, my body fat's falling every single week, my muscle mass is staying the same or increasing or what have you, no one can tell you you're wrong, because that's the reason that we measure everything else in every other activity except the gym for some strange reason. So, and it's that's all it is. You can't separate the training and the diet. You've got to do both of them together. And you've got to see how well they integrate together by measuring the outcome on your body composition. So you've got to set a goal for the diet, which is going to be, it's going to affect your body weight. You've got to set a goal for your training. It's going to affect your muscle mass. And then you test them literally by testing them. You measure what it did, and there's the answer to all your questions. And if going for a walk in the morning when you're fasted and then making your decisions based on photographs in the mirror works, well, that's cool. You can prove it by measuring it. It doesn't matter what method you want to do. Just measure it and you can prove it.
So the theory with, I suppose it's the personal methodology here is just everything you do, whatever you do, there's nothing technically right or wrong, but if you can measure it and prove it that it's working, then fantastic.
Absolutely. But yeah, and I would also argue it the other way, that the most brilliantly conceived, technical, complicated, wonderful, justifiable set of actions that measurably fails, it measurably failed. That's how it is, that's all it is. Simple.
Okay.
Measure it.
Cool. And let's just, I had a chat with you the other night about this in terms of training programming, and I just wanted to go through this really quickly with you because I thought you brought up some really, really important points on your training methodologies, just for personal. So the first thing that I think I really learned from you was that, the Recomposer software that you use, that you said everybody confuses, is that's what Recomp is. But same thing like you just said, that's just a testing method. That's just a measuring method, sorry.
The analogy I use, I go, it's like accounting software is for accountants. If your business goes broke, it's not because of the software. It's what you did in your business. Recomposer is a measuring tool. You put the numbers in, and it just makes the job so much easier to plan, track, measure, and make good decisions off relevant data. It allows you to provide a very professional service. But you know, if you're an idiot and you don't know how to change body composition, then all the software is going to do is measure that you're an idiot and you didn't change body composition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of the training, and I picked up, I thought this was really, really interesting. Obviously, everybody knows squat, bench press, and deadlift as a performance exercise. Very, very easy to measure. And obviously, you'd said that the deadlift was well, I'd say the king of all exercises, because that's the one you can't change technique on. It's getting a bar from A to B. You know, there's no depth issues. There's no bringing the bar down to the chest.
There's the least skill. Yeah, there's the least bastardization of the measurement, because skill doesn't really come into it all that much.
I think I can quote you when you said you can't bullshit a deadlift.
That's it. Yeah. That's the technical way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you are putting programs together, or you're recommending programming for people, you're a big fan of full body splits.
Yeah.
And mostly compound exercises.
Yeah.
Can you just explain why that is? Because I know we see a lot nowadays of people throwing all these training methods out there that actually lack a lot of the compound exercises, or if they do them, they do them, you know, in a way with a 30% intensity of what they could be lifting, but, you know, using different tempos.
And it's promoted, yeah. And it's complicated and promoted and all the rest of it. Like the fundamental thing I've got is you need to look at your training in terms of the athlete that you're trying to become. So if you were a sprinter, for example, then what you'd want to measure every time you go and train is, did I get faster sprinting? And how do you do that? You run as fast as you can and you see if it's faster than last time. It's very simple. If you're not getting faster, it doesn't matter how brilliant and scientific and who used your program and protocol before. If you're not getting faster, you're not getting faster. You drop it like it's hot and just go find something else to do. Training should be exactly the same. If you're going to the gym, you're lifting weights. If you can't lift more weight over time than you could before, your training isn't working. Unless, of course, you're dieting to lose weight, so you're actually lifting more per kilo of body weight than before. Yeah. Same diff. Yeah. From a muscularity point of view, if you have more muscle, then you must be able to lift more weight. It's pretty damn simple. The big compound exercises are the hardest to bullshit, so they'll give you the most honest answer whether or not you actually got stronger or not. And in order to measure whether you got stronger, you need to lift when you're fresh to the limit of your physical capability. You don't want to add any additional variables to that. You don't want to go at a particular pace that you can't replicate exactly again and again, time after time, or you can't quite measure perfectly. It's much easier to eliminate the variable by just pushing as hard and fast as you possibly can. And then you let the weight slow you down because, well, it's heavy, so there's only so fast that you can lift it. And there's only so fast that you can practically lift a weight before the speed of the weight will actually make you weaker, sloppier, and everything actually goes worse. So in the real world, if you lift a heavy weight as fast as you can, it still doesn't move very fast. And, you can eliminate that speed variable. If every time you go to the gym, you lift as hard as you can, as fast as you can, for as many reps as you can, with as much weight as you can, then you know that you're comparing like with like to last time. If you got stronger, you got stronger. Now, does that mean you have to train like this to failure as fast as possible, blah, blah? No. Is it possible to get stronger training every other way? Absolutely, 100%. The only difference is that you're kind of ignorant of where you're at and when you got stronger and why you got stronger. And the question that it begs is, why are you not training like that? Do you really believe that training softer and lazier is a more efficient, effective way of becoming stronger and faster and able to train hard? Anyway, it doesn't make sense. So my idea of programming is based around that. You want to see that the big compounds are getting stronger. And over the course of every training program, the basic fundamental principle behind a lot of strength training is start off with light loads and build up to new maximums. So the only difference with what I do is I believe in using a 1 rep max calculator So when you start off with the light loads, you can calculate what your peak strength is based on the number of reps that you got. And then as the weight goes up every week, the reps fall off, but you use the 1 rep max calculator to try to at least measurably beat what you did previously. And then when you hit new maximums, you want to change your program structure as differently as possible. And changing a flat bench to an incline is not changing your program. You need to change the frequency you hit each body part, the volume that you do each time, the number of days per week, all of those big variables. So where you said I like full body workouts, yeah, I like full body workouts a lot. I find them very effective, very low volume. One set of one exercise per body part works really, really well, particularly in people who have been training like most people do with 16 sets per body part once per week. It's the most radically different split you could possibly give them. And because it's radically different, they're going to get a radically better result than they were. Because it's different.
And when you say one set, that's so obviously just to clear that up as well, because I've had a few people where we programmed in and
one
said,
working set with lots of warm-ups as necessary.
Yeah, so I've actually I've had that a couple times happen where we've had in the program with deadlifts, and it's been 2 working sets on the program, and they come in 40 kilos and 60 kilos when the max is up around about 180. So, you know, we just wanted to clear that one up as well, that it's working sets. So they don't include warm-ups. It's your one performance set that you take out to max.
You know, years and years ago, decades, literally, I followed the old Bulgarian burst training program that Leo Costa brought back from Bulgaria back when the Bulgarians were smashing everyone. And the Bulgarians back then would train multiple times per day, 7 days per week. And their basic philosophy was the body becomes its function. So they thought that warming up taught your body to be weak, and therefore you shouldn't do it. And that any Olympic lifter should be able to do their 1 rep max cold multiple times per day. And so I gave it a try, and it didn't work very well. I tried walking into the gym when I was like 17 or 16 years old, putting 150 kilos on the bar for squats and dropping full depth into the squat with my knees sounding like bubble wrap being popped. And, when my knees were as big as footballs sort of 2 weeks later, I'm like, I don't think that this not warming up thing's quite working for me.
Well, did you measure it? That's what you got to do, right?
Yeah, I measured my knees and they were 4 times bigger, but my quads weren't. So,
wasn't working.
It wasn't really doing the ratio of knee to quad sweep that I was looking for. Yeah.
So this is back when you were bodybuilding.
It's always been. I've never trained for bodybuilding or powerlifting in my life. I trained for me to be, the best I can be. I want to look like I want to look. And then I walked into bodybuilding contests and I won them, and the same with powerlifting comps. I teach all of my any athlete under me, it's like you should be able to walk into a powerlifting contest any day of the week. It's just another day at the gym. You train to be strong all the time. You're always training to be stronger. You don't walk around fat. So on the equation, which is how much can you lift for your body weight, you're a power lifter. Just go do it. But we do it to look like bodybuilders. It's the same damn thing. And that's why I've done particularly well with lots of natty bodybuilders, because the natural guys, it's more pure, the other guys, they've got other means of achieving the same ends without doing the work in the gym, if they're the lucky ones who can do that. But it still works well with them as well, just to lift the weight.
Yeah, it's the whole natural versus non-natural thing is also becoming quite an issue that I've seen. And, I've seen it to the point now where we're getting, events, some of the lower divisions in bodybuilding shows with, abuse with performance enhancing drugs. And it's kind of scary to me to see sort of what these people are going through and hearing, what they're being told on advice to use, and why they need to do it. Example, tell me your thoughts on this, Damon.
It's just horrendous, and I've been around a little while now, and I've seen this pattern go before, where drugs are a sort of very underground thing, and then from sort of nowhere, they start to really froth and bubble up to the top, and they become more mainstream. And that froth and that bubbling just seems to keep getting more and more frothy until it seems like just about everybody is doping, just insane amounts. No one seems to recognize that the vast majority of people doing all of these drugs look like crap. They're not getting anywhere. They may be fractionally better than they were when they were doing their crappy training and their bad dieting, without the drugs, but ultimately they still look pretty damn bad. I've never seen it reach the levels that it is right now. The drug abuse, the doses and the harshness of drugs given to everybody, including, I've heard of bikini girls doing trenbolone and ice to get in competition condition, hardcore narcotics as well as performance enhancing drugs. And
that's
you're
a
like,
true story.
Absolutely. And you're like, it's a bikini contest, for God's sakes. It's a non-performance division. It's where you're not allowed to look like you have any level of performance, let alone performance enhancement from drugs. And, they're doing diuretics before they get on stage. It's like you get penalized for being lean. You're still fat. You don't have water to lose. The drug use just goes beyond any sense or reason. It's not effective. It's not effective, which is one problem. The other is just that it's just ridiculous. It's about to crash. It's crashed. I've seen it several times before where the police are just going to go through the whole country, and there's going to be a whole lot of people in a world of hurt. And you can see it coming. I've seen it done before, and it's the same damn pattern again, just to a higher level than ever before. It's horrendous.
Do you think this is coming down a little bit too, as well, with training and just the
very much, yeah.
I
The
don't want to
training's
say
so utterly ineffective that
I
that
don't want to
then
use the word
justifies
lazy,
the drugs.
but
Yeah. But it's that and more than that. It's that and the fact that every and again, this whole fitness and health thinking. If you look at any other sport, no one in any other sport gives a goddamn how the body works. They know what to do to get good at their sport. So a golf player doesn't need to think about all of the individual muscle activations involved in a golf swing. If he tried thinking about them, he wouldn't hit the ball. All he knows to do is to go to the driving range in the golf course and to swing the club and hit the ball in a straight line and practice. And that's how the body then creates all of the amazing, neuromuscular patterns and pathways and synapses and other technical stuff like that. You don't need to know how it happens. You just need to know that you go to the driving range and you hit golf balls and you'll get better at it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, bodybuilding being the fact that people think bodybuilding is part of health means that they go and ask the people in the health industry. These are doctors whose job is to find out how the various parts of the body works, because their job is to fix those broken parts of the body. So to a doctor, it's very important how the nervous system actually triggers the muscle, because they've got neuromuscular degeneration and diseases to try to figure out how to fix. And then you've got patients with heart disease, and you need to actually worry about, well, how does the blood get from here to there, and how do the capillaries actually form, and what stimulates them to form, and what are the enzymes and the hormones, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of this technical stuff. This is very interesting and useful stuff for the purposes of medicine, but it's absolutely freaking useless for the purposes of playing sport. But because we've gone down that track into going, well, what is the process by which fat gets burnt? No one needs to care the process by which fat gets burnt. You just need to know what the outcome needs to be in terms of what you can lift in the gym and what you should weigh on the scale, and then you adjust your food and your training to achieve those two ends. If you achieve those two ends, the fat happened. No one understands how the muscle grew. Why are you worried about how the fat gets burnt or when? It doesn't matter. You can't measure it, you can't see it, and you can't make it or change it happening. The body does whatever the hell it wants to. But because people are asking all these questions about how does it work, and this is relatively unique to bodybuilding and body recomposition because people think it's part of disease, fixing. That's what's got them going, we need drugs. We need drugs. We need supplements. We need to manipulate this biochemical pathway because it's all about the biochemical pathway. And every time it fails, and it always fails, because it's still going to be ultimately a result of what you lifted in the gym and the food you stuck down your neck. So all of these different supplements, they never work. Everyone knows they don't work. They haven't ever freaking worked. No one went and took a supplement and suddenly got an amazing physique from it. It's just a nonsense. And the same thing with the drugs. The analogy I use with people is go, look at Lance Armstrong. He uses the same things as Ronnie Coleman. Did you notice he doesn't look like Ronnie Coleman? Did you notice? Maybe it's because he rides a bike and doesn't lift weights.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So that's all of this stuff is coming from the need to answer the wrong questions. And if they didn't have the need to answer the wrong questions, how does the fat get burnt? What are my hormones doing? Blah, 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 blah. There wouldn't be this drive towards taking substances to try to force an outcome which you still failed to force. So it all then comes back around to the fault is this misunderstanding of health, fitness, and body recomposition as being the same thing. They're diametrically opposed things.
So it's pretty crazy now because we go through all that sort of for the last half an hour, and then you have a look at, you take it all the way back to the start of this call, and you talk about the scope of practice for what a certificate 3 and 4 trainer is, and then what their role is as a job. And then you come back and we just speak now about, people trying to go through hormones and everything like that. And it's crazy to see, it's crazy to see how far, off track it is.
Yeah. The sickness that's being achieved in the pursuit of health and fitness. Yeah, it's a great irony. But it's also kind of, as I said before, it's the logical unintended consequence of lying to people about what health and fitness really is. If you said to people, do your cardio, squeeze your muscles, lift your light weights, and you'll achieve 17% body fat at 65 kilos for a 175 centimeter male, people would tell them where to stick that idea.
Yeah.
No one wants this product, except the 60%, the huge volume of Australians who need the product because they're going to die from being sedentary. But that's a different problem. It's completely unrelated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I don't know, like I sit here, we spoke about this the other day as well, and it's just sort of, I had a little bit of time to think about it, and it's just crazy to see, what's the norm now, I should say, for personal trainers coming out. And obviously, 95% of trainers that you see will be teaching out of their scope of practice. I would say probably even more than 95.
Yeah.
Now this all comes back to the insurance that you had created, well, you helped get through in Australia, which is a Recomp insurance. So just quickly, can you just run through that one again? Because I think that's just probably the huge takeaway point for this podcast.
Yeah, look, you when you get your fitness insurance, then you are covered for getting members of the public to do general activity.
And this is Fitness Australia, Guild.
So Guild, Marsh. Guild's application form actually states on it, excluding bodybuilding and powerlifting. This is not a secret or conspiracy. It's right out there. Marsh, if you want to call them up, you can ask the question. I've done it. You just say to them, I want to get someone ready for a bodybuilding competition. Do you cover me? No, we do not. Go, okay, well, what about my other clients who I train the exact same way? Am I covered for training them? And then you'll get the answer, no, you're not. If you call them up and you go, am I covered for squats and deadlifts? Of course you're covered for squats and deadlifts. You're also covered for boxing and for track and field and all these other things. Unless you mean training someone to compete in boxing, because that's a totally different animal. And you're not allowed to train a person to compete in powerlifting, et cetera, et cetera. The Recomp insurance covers personal trainers for bodybuilding and powerlifting style training for both the general public and athletes, from fitness through to competition, bodybuilding and powerlifting competition. So it's a narrow scope of practice. It's not. It doesn't cover you if you want to do boot camps in the park. Boot camps in the park are not body recomposition. That's fitness. If you want to train rugby players, go to ASCA, become a strength coach, work with the athletes playing rugby. But if what you're doing is training people with weights, then you need the Recomp insurance. And then if you pass 3 assessments and get Recomp certified, then the insurance upgrades to even cover you for prescribing diets. And this is prescribing sports nutrition for the purpose of body recomposition. So it's not curing a diabetic of diabetes or anything like that. But it's really important. You've got to watch out for a lot of these courses out there that are they've been trying to trade off what I was doing for a number of years. And you'll see there's these nutrition courses that allow you to... They'll say write diets, and then when you get into the fine print, what it actually says is you can recommend healthy eating choices, which is a very, very different thing from writing a diet. You can't tell a person eat 200 grams of chicken and 100 grams of rice for the third meal of the day. You can tell them that rice is better than hot chips. And that's about it. So if it's in fitness, and again, when you understand what fitness is, you go, there's nothing wrong with this. No sedentary, obese person needs sports nutrition.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Of course they don't need sports nutrition. You can give it to them. Just stop eating crap. Simple fix. Stop eating crap. Stop drinking booze. Get off your bum and go and do something. You'll drop some pounds, and most of it will be fat because there's just way too much fat there that the body wants to lose anyway. It's a solution to that problem. The problem is when people think that it's a solution to a problem it's not meant for.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so what's the nutrition course that you have to do? So you spoke about the 3 assessments. So there's the strength testing.
That's correct. So what we've done is we've gone, this is Recomp Certification is it's certifying that a person is competent in body recomposition. So there's, as I was explaining to you the other day, it's fairly technical, but there isn't any and there won't ever be a university degree in body recomposition or bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is not formally recognized as a sport, and you're not going to wind up with that as a qualification. So the people who are expert in it, the bodybuilding coaches, etc., you'll notice even at the pro level, these aren't people with academic qualifications in bodybuilding. These are just people who have done it really, really well. Yeah. So what Recomp certification does is say this person has proved that they have the essential competencies. The prerequisite is you must have been personal training people as the primary occupation on your tax return for 2 years. Basically, you got to prove that you're at least competent as a coach enough to put food on the table each night. The next test is to do the strength test, which is basically just prove that you can lift slightly better than average weights. So squat, bench, deadlift, you can do a calculated max by doing reps with weight. Just prove you can lift weight.
And the calculator for that's on your website.
That's on the website, and the technique is very rough powerlifting technique. Basically, the depth of the squat and the bench, but you can bounce and hitch and do whatever you want to. It's just going, show us training technique that you can get a decent performance. The next one is an 8-week recomposition assessment. So you got to get your body composition measured at the start. You train and diet yourself for 8 weeks, and at the end you get remeasured by an authorized person or DEXA laboratory. And the equations on the website, if you can elicit enough of a change in your physique, you pass the test. And then finally, I'm the Australian ambassador to the International Society of Sports Nutrition, so I represent them here in Australia. They have an online exam called the Sports Nutrition Specialist exam. The ISSN, I should mention, is the foremost group of sports nutrition scientists in the world. This isn't Mickey Mouse stuff. This is the journal of the ISSN is the top-ranked scientific journal on the planet for sports nutrition. So all of the cutting-edge sports nutrition science that you wind up reading about in Muscular Development magazine, years later, it came out with the ISSN first. So they've got online exams, no course. It's an exam, again, to prove you know what you're talking about. Sit the exam. If you fail, you're an idiot. Go learn some stuff. Come back. Sit it again. If you pass, congratulations. Thanks for proving that you know what you're talking about. So it's the whole program is cheap. There's no course. We're not trying to rob people of more money, because I think the fitness industry's got enough of that crap going on in it as it is. And you can't bluff it. We don't give you a piece of paper because you paid us some money. You actually have to prove you know your stuff. And if you don't meet the standards exactly the way that they've been set down, you don't get the piece of paper. And there's a lot of failure. And I'm proud to do it. It's anyone who's got their Recomp certification is proud of it, because they know they earned it, and they did stuff that many other personal trainers who believe they are competent failed to get. So It's one of the few legitimate things in a world where everything else is just hand over the check and you get it. This is no, you actually need to prove that you're competent.
Yeah. So just to bottom line that, basically, for 99% of trainers that are working outside of their scope of practice, that is something that you need to do to keep doing what you're doing, basically.
Well, you'd and it's gotten difficult since Fitness First was recognizing Recomp certification, because they realized the legal quagmire that they were in, that personal trainers doing bodybuilding in their gyms aren't covered by the guild or the Marsh Insurance. So obviously you would recognize Recomp registration so that you knew your trainer was properly insured. Ever since the Good Life people, or I forget the name of the company that's bought Fitness First and Good Life and Jets and the others, the group there is, shall we say, very close with the people in Fitness Australia. And so now all of the personal trainers at Good Life and Fitness First have to be with Fitness Australia. We've actually had the executives say to some of our coaches that trainers will now, with Good Life and Fitness First, it's not with anyone else, every other gym's fine, but that trainers will actually need to be with both Fitness Australia, not take out the insurance from Fitness Australia, but also register with Recomp so that you can get the proper insurance that actually covers you. So it's a bit of a political stoush at the moment, but
and it get costly for trainers too.
Well, it's ridiculous, because it means that Fitness First is exposed. They've got people working in there, operating outside of their scope of practice, not covered by the insurance. So when the no-win, no-fee lawyer wants to go, well, this guy's not worth anything, who am I going to go after next? Sees a big billion-dollar company behind it, that's the logical place to lay claim. But yeah, any personal trainer doing bodybuilding style training needs to be with Recomp. And if for any client out there, if your coach isn't Recomp certified, he or she is absolutely not insured or qualified to be doing what they're doing with you, because it can't be done any other way. You can't write diets and training programs for bodybuilding unless you're with Recomp certified.
That's just scary to me still. I mean, I still can't get over, after speaking with you a few times about, all of this and how it's how big of a part it plays. Because I think a lot of people just sort of, as you were saying, insurance it's just one of those things that you get because you have to get it, and that's it. And
the irony, sorry to interrupt, but the greatest irony is that all of these people spending all of these tens of thousands of dollars on all of these different courses that they're doing, the piece of paper you get, the only thing any piece of paper is worth is the recognition of an insurance company. If you got a degree in law and no insurer would cover you, well, you can't practice law. You can't work in a law firm. You can't get an office to practice law or anything else. You got to be insured. Every single job, it's all about insurance. Yeah. The pieces of paper, that's all they're good for in this day and age, is if the insurance company recognizes your piece of paper and says, yes, I will cover you for doing that job, boom, you're home and hosed. So everyone thinks that the certifications are the things that validate them. No. The insurance is what validates you, and the certification is only good for being for getting the insurance. That's all it's about. So yeah, people are wasting all of this money on these courses, and most of them are shit, and we all know they're shit. They're just absolutely abominably bad and so expensive. And at the end of them, particularly all the fitness courses, you're still a fitness PT. You can't do it. You can't go and write diets for people because fitness isn't sports nutrition. Yeah.
And on that note as well, I just want to make a quick point that we will have Marcus Wilkinson from Iron Body coming out to Perth in late August. We haven't had the date set then. Marcus I believe he's a Recomp specialist.
He is. He's got the top Recomp level of certification. So there's 3 levels. Marcus is the top. And that means Marcus is authorized to assess other personal trainers for Recomp certification. So, yeah, when he joins you next month, is it?
August.
In August, so a month after? Yep.
It's enough time for people to start trying to get a little stronger.
Absolutely. And leaner, because if he's going to measure them for their recomposition assessment, then men need to be under 15% and women need to be under 20% just to start the assessment. If you're too fat, you're not allowed to be assessed. and the reason, I better make the apology because people get all upset and go, that's discriminatory. No. Body recomposition is about reducing body fat beyond fitness. Yes. So that is why in order to start the assessment, you already need to be beyond the levels of fitness.
Okay. Cool. So late August, we're going to have Marcus out here. He'll be presenting a seminar at our facility, and he will, I believe, we're just confirming with it now, but he will also be running the strength tests.
Yeah. I think that's as part of the seminar. But he because he's a specialist, he will be filming and he will witness the lifts. So those will count to the Recomp certification.
And just the final mention as well, in terms of the Recomposer software as well, passing the strength test will allow you, because you can have insurance for training without passing.
Recomposer, the Recomposer software, basically, Recompose is entirely separate from Recomp. Recomp is for any trainer doing anything that they do that's bodybuilding style stuff. What I did with the Recomposer software is it's protected by that. So basically, if you're not eligible for Recomp certification, then there is no way you should be using this piece of software. If you don't have the training experience, if you can't even lift reasonably adequate weights, then having a tool that's based on measured strength performances in the gym is just a waste of time on you. And unfortunately, unlike accounting software where people recognize a dodgy accountant as the problem, not the software they use, when it comes to this sort of stuff, we already have people going, oh, I tried Recomp and I tried Recomposer and it didn't work for me. You go, it's not possible for it to work or fail. It's a measuring tool. If it measured what you did based on the data you put in, it did exactly what it was supposed to. The fact that your coach didn't know what to do with the data and they gave you a bad diet and a bad training program, or you didn't do the work properly and Recomposer measured that it failed, that's not the software's fault. That's just a bad program, badly executed. Yeah.
So we'll be able to test all of that come late August. So for anybody that wants to get in touch, where would be the best contact for you?
Well, go to the website, recomp.com.au, and check under the Recomp PT industry tab, and there's all the information about the registration, the insurance. There's a blog on there giving you a basic checklist of capabilities saying whether or not you should be with Fitness Australia, Recomp, or ASCA, and showing you the exact differences between what's in whose scope of practice. But yeah, read the information, and then you can send an inquiry through from the form if it sounds like something you're interested in and want to pursue it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, it's almost midnight in Melbourne, so I'm going to let you get out of here, and I apologize for holding you so long. But thank you again so much for coming on, because I think, in WA, there's a lot of these sort of issues that are coming up. So having you being able to come on here and clear the air for people has been, I think, absolutely fantastic. I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Sorry, there's so much to say, and sorry I'm so verbose about saying it, but I hope some people continue to listen all the way through to the end and they got something out of it. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk.
All right. Have a good night, Damon. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Catch ya.